Morning, folks. I watch a lot of farming videos and construction videos, trucking videos on YouTube, and starting to hear more and more lately people having broke down equipment. You know, trucks broke down, can't find a part. Tractors broke down, parts 6 weeks out. You know, I'm trying to finish this house and I can't get this gauge of wire. And it's getting worse and going to continue to get worse before it gets better. I thought I'd come on here and explain to you, because I don't even really explain it well. And I might not explain it well. What caused this and what's actually happening, the mechanics of it. Pre-pandemic, we had a delivery system in this country called Just in Time. And it was started years ago by the automotive industry. It was back in the late 80s, early 90s. Maybe after that. See, when they used to build cars, car would go down the assembly line, and they'd have 500 right-hand doors sitting there, 500 left-hand doors, 500 engines, 500 transmissions. They warehoused all this stuff at the plant and had plenty on hand, so if there was supply disruption, the plant just kept on chugging out cars. Well, when they changed it to just in time, like the tires that they put on the car would hit the dock 30 minutes before they was out of tires, and they'd work through that load of tires and there'd be another one coming right behind it. Same thing with all the other parts of the car. And think how many parts is in a car. I remember when I delivered a load of tires to an automotive plant once. They gave me a 20-minute window to get it in there, or the company had to pay big fines. But what happened is when the pandemic happened, and various little plants closed here, there, and everywhere. They had 95% of where they needed to build a car, but they couldn't finish the car because they lacked just a few pieces, because the plants were shut down, and that was really their only option. Plus, then what's happened lately to really stick a knife in it was when China started doing these shutdowns where they're shutting down whole cities. Well, a lot of their product came from over there. Things that, you know, like microchips and such came from over in that part of the world, and they couldn't finish, and not just cars, they couldn't finish anything. Because nowadays, everything's got a microchip in it. So these big CEOs of these American companies have decided that they're going to change formats. They're going to go to what they call just-in-case delivery. They're not going to go full-blown back to warehousing everything at the factory, but they're going to warehouse a certain supply at the factory. You know, a certain amount. So they wouldn't be running on such a tight timeline. boot, a lot of American companies are starting what they call onshoring. I don't know if you're over 40 years old, you remember the 90s when it seemed like every week in your local area some plant was shutting down and moving to China or moving to Mexico. And people was hot to try it, but it didn't stop. It just Alabama used to be a huge supplier of textiles. Russell Athletics had plants all over Alabama. Because we grew a lot of the cotton here in the South, they had ample supply to their supplies, but then when everything went worldwide, went global, they figured they didn't have to pay old Susie May $16 to sew up socks. They could pay old Jose down in Mexico or some 8-year-old kid in China 10 cents an hour to do it. So they moved the plants. They just come in, they unbolt all the machinery, they'd empty the plant, and leave. Fire everybody. Well, now this has turned around and bit them in the ass. That's why you see that they're going to be building semiconductor chips plants in the country. I've heard of several of them, one in Ohio, one in New York, a couple in Texas. One of the big reasons is our own national security. You know, those machines of war that our soldiers use, they all have semiconductors in them. And we finally wised up and realized we can't be held over a barrel by what's going on between China and Taiwan to whether we're able to keep things going in this country. So they're bringing a lot of industry back. If not the United States, at least South or Mexico or the United States or Canada. That way, if there's problems with the ships, the cargo ships, or anything like that, it doesn't affect us. The problem with all this, and it'll be great when it all gets done, be more high-paying jobs here for people. We'll be more self-sufficient again, like we always have been throughout our history. It's made us such a great country. But it's going to take time, and it's going to take adjustment. And you know, countries like China is not going to take kindly to the fact that we're pulling our plants back out of China and bringing them back to the United States. So during that transition period, they're going to make life hard on us. Believe it or not, you know, you may drive a 30-year-old John Deere. The alternator goes out on it. While that alternator itself might not be made in China, half the components inside of it probably are. And it's killing these farmers and these truckers. So let's say you have a truck that breaks down and goes in the shop, they tell you parts 6 weeks out. You know, the payment's still due on that truck. The insurance is still going to be due. Not to mention the fact that you still got to eat. You're not left with a lot of options because these lease companies like Penske and stuff, they're out of trucks. They don't have any to lease. been a farmer that's trying to get a crop in the ground, and his planter's sitting in his barn, broke down, with no good timeline of when he's gonna be able to get a part for it. Like I say, go take you a tour around the grocery store, tour around the Walmarts, and just look. I mean, really look at the shelves, and you'll see. I had a good friend here the other day. Her 11-year-old daughter, they just went to the grocery store. Her 11-year-old daughter says, call John and figure out why there ain't no milk at the grocery store. Turned out they went to the grocery store, went to 2 or 3 of them. There was no milk, hardly any dairy products. I don't know why. And that's one other thing, these go into convenience stores, you notice they're real low on their Cokes and stuff. I've been noticing a beer shortage, God forbid, in grocery stores. The reason behind that's a little bit different. For years and years, if you're a trucker and you wanted to go local, unless you just lucked up in one of those LTL jobs like, you know, Old Dominion or Yellow Freight or something like that, one of the only ways to do it was go drive for Budweiser, PepsiCo, or Coke, or Frito-Lay, doing their store deliveries. And I can tell you, I did that for Blue Rhino propane, and that is a rough-ass job. It's a rough-ass job, don't pay much. Well, here since the pandemic, and kind of because this is the direction trucking's moving anyway, there are local jobs that pay good money. If you want to drive local, I mean, they're not as easy to get as over-the-road jobs, but they aren't that hard to get. You be patient, do some shopping around. I'm saying this from a point of once you get some experience, you find a local job. It's not really all that difficult. Well, these drink companies and stuff, vendors, they still ain't wanting to pay nothing, and so they're having a hard time finding, much less keeping, drivers. And I don't care how big a company you are, if you ain't got no drivers, you ain't making no deliveries. But that'll correct itself over time too. That's a supply and demand issue. They'll have to pay more money to get their product in the stores, or come up with another system. I've noticed they've started changing. Like Pepsi and Budweiser, they're not using the roll side trailers so much, where the driver has to handle every case. You know, he goes into the store says, I want 8 cases of this, 12 cases of that, 14 cases of that. He's got to go out there and pull all those cases. Now the store owner calls PepsiCo and says, puts in his order for everything he needs. Well, then they load it in a little pup van, or pup, day cab with a pup trailer with a Johnson lift on the back of it. Well, at the Pepsi plant, they wrap up that customer's order on a pallet, wrap it up in shrink wrap, stick the bills to the side of it, and then all the driver's got to do is show up at the store and unload the pallet. Now, he may still have to take it in the store and stack it in the store and do all that other crap, but he's not in there fingerprinting every case off the truck. Or bird. So it seems like those jobs are even evolving. But it'll fix itself. It's going to take time. We went into a bad system about 20, 30 years ago because it saved a buck. And now we got to get back out of that system. And it's not going to be done painlessly. That's all. That's just a snapshot on how logistics work and why things are happening the way they're happening. I know it doesn't make it any easier on the fact that you can't get milk to put on your Fruit Loops, but at least now you know why. And like what I've told people that's had parts issues and stuff like that, if it's a cheap part, you know, it's just like a valve or something, $20 part, instead of buying one, buy two and stick it on the shelf. Same thing like with something you may like at the grocery store. If you walk in there and they got some, stock up on it a little bit. If you're able, because that'll get you through when they're short. Like I said, we ain't seen nothing yet, folks. This year's a pretty good year. This year's farmers got a pretty decent crop in the ground. They had fertilizer this year, although it was expensive as hell. Next year's going to be a whole nother animal. If this mess don't come to a stop over in Europe, if we don't fix our political issues, decide that we need to drill some more oil out of the ground, next year's going to be real bad. This winter's going to be horrible for a lot of folks. It's going to be horrible for people in Germany, I know that for a fact. Or in Europe. If y'all got any questions, leave them in the comments down below. I'll do my best to get back to you. If you would, like and subscribe, and I appreciate anybody that gives me any support. Y'all have a fine day, and I'll catch you on the flip side.